Welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. Today we're doing a budget Tifa deck. We're just trying to one-shot our opponents. Now this deck isn't one-dimensional though. There is a way to use her power to generate massive board states. So we're also going to be utilizing that here. But at the end of the day, you're going to get a super simple deck to understand, and it's going to have a pretty decent budget around it as well. So instead of throwing you guys with a bunch of interactions and you guys trying to seep it all in and understand how the deck is working today, we're just looking at a simple green deck that one-shots people or generates a giant board state. So if that sounds like something you guys want to get into, stay tuned. As always, there's a whatnot link in the description that you guys can click on to claim that free $15. You guys can also get 10% off all of your Tolarian library proxies whenever you use code DT for D. And last but not least, if you would like, comment, and subscribe if you're enjoying the content, it really helps me out. I know it's annoying that I have to ask, but it really does help. And to show my appreciation, I am going to be replying to all the comments down below. Now let's get right into this deck tech. Before we get into the individual cards, I just wanted to explain the game plan briefly real quick because it's not a hard one, but there is some nuance to it. We are just trying to deal 21 damage to our opponents. The only thing is Tifa does only have one power. This means just dropping land after land after land, it takes her a little bit to get to 21 power. So we do want to ensure that we drop something that buffs her power up before we start shoving a lot of lands onto the battlefield. And then you're just left with a green deck that ramps incredibly efficiently, and then we just get to play a lot of free landfall payoffs that allow us to actually protect our board state when our commander is tapped. And I think that is why you should run this commander as one of your Voltron decks. Not only does she get benefit off of landfall synergies, but she also gets rid of one of the drawbacks of Voltron decks. There's a lot of different ways we can utilize her power to win the game that I'm going to go over today, so this isn't just a commander damage out every player or bust kind of deck. If you have one explosive turn, we can probably turn that into the win, so let's get into it. Let's talk about the unique ways this deck can go wide, because after we get her to 21 power, we want to be able to utilize that 21 power in other ways than just killing our opponents, because next turn, if we can't get her to 21 power again, the deck has lost all of its gas. Windswift Slice can utilize her power to generate an instant board state. It's an instant for 3 CMC that says target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. Create a number of 1/1 green elf warrior creature tokens equal to the amount of excess damage dealt this way. So if we deal 21 power to a 1/1, boom, we get 20 elves onto the battlefield. Scepter of Celebration is just better here. It's a 3 CMC artifact equipment that has equip 3, equipped creature gets +2 and trample, and then whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, create that many green and white citizen creature tokens. So again, this one sticks around, so whenever we kill one player, they've got to get through 21 of our citizens creature tokens to get in on us next turn. Hornet's Nest also works to generate an insane board state. This is a creature insect that's 3 CMC, it has defender, and whenever this creature is dealt damage, create that many 1/1 green insect creature tokens with flying and death touch. Notably, this is an amazing defender in the deck to just stay back. Our opponents really are not going to want to attack into us because we are on a lot of instant cards that grant creatures indestructible. So if our opponents attack us with a 5/5, we give Hornet's Nest indestructible, and then boom, we generate 5 1/1 green insect creature tokens. Or we can utilize our fight spells like Contest of Claws. It's 2 CMC sorcery that says target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to another target creature. If XX damage was dealt this way, discover X, where X is the excess damage. So after we get some insane power on Tifa, we're able to not only kill a player, one-shotting them, we then cast Contest of Claws to have Tifa essentially fight our Hornet's Nest and generate, I don't know, 30, 40 of these 1/1 flying creature insects. That's going to be crazy. Another pretty simple way to end out the game is Ram Through. It's a 2 CMC instant that says target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. If the creature you control has trample, access damage is dealt to that controller instead. This doesn't count as commander damage, but it's not insane to get Tifa to over 40 power, and then if you can just kill one player and then ram through another player's creature, one-shotting that player as well. Then you only have one player left to deal with. Speaking of getting Tifa easily to 40 power, we have Traverse the Outlands. This is a 5 CMC sorcery that says search your library for up to X basic land cards, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Put those cards onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. This is going to easily trigger all of our landfall effects a ton, to a point where we can probably win the game if we untap with them. Additionally, it's going to allow us to one-shot one player at least, because Tifa's power is no doubtably going to be way over over 21 at that point. We're also playing cards like Chocobo Racetrack, so this is going to make those 2/2 green bird creature tokens whenever a land enters, and those birds have an ability whenever a land enters under your control, they get +1/+1 until end of turn. So in a world where you have a lot of these on the battlefield, your Traverse the Outlands just becomes an overrun effect to win the game. I also briefly wanted to touch on her interaction with Death Touch, but this is honestly just an interaction that Trample has with Death Touch anyway. The way Trample is worded, you only have to deal lethal damage to a creature before you can start doing the trample damage, the excess damage, right? So once you give a creature Trample and Death Touch, lethal damage becomes 1. If Tifa has 5 power and then we're blocked by a 5/5, we only have to deal 1 damage to that 5/5 and 4 damage is going to trample over. Let's talk about my favorite ways in the deck that we're going to make Tifa massive without using the landfall ability. Raised by Giants is a 6 CMC legendary enchantment background that says commander creatures you own have base power and toughness 10/10 and are giants in addition to their other types. So now all we have to do is drop 1 land and her power is already 20, and then drop 2 lands and she's already a 40/40. That's going to be absolutely crazy, and you can easily start one-shotting players. Then we get to easily start doing some of that stuff that seems far-fetched, right? But think about it, we're on a ton of cards that allow us to draw cards equal to her power, so now we're putting 40 cards into our hand. It's not hard to find our Hornet's Nest and then our Contest of Claws and generate a board state of over 40 creatures that way. Or again, just use Ram Through to kill someone. Forgotten Ancient is a 4 CMC elemental that says whenever a player casts a spell, you may put a 1/1 counter on this creature. It also says at the beginning of your upkeep, you may remove any number of 1/1 counters from this creature and put it onto another creature. So if they cast a lot of spells, we're going to take all of the counters on Forgotten Ancient, put them on Tifa, and then one-shot somebody. Same with Thundering Nightmare. This is a 5 CMC creature horse spirit with Soulbound. This means you can pair it to a creature whenever it enters the battlefield, and it will also maintain its ability. And its ability is, as long as Thundering Nightmare is paired with another creature, each of those creatures has, whenever an opponent casts a spell, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. So again, we're just going to make Tifa massive while our opponents are playing the game. Black Blade Reforged says equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each land you control. This is a ramp deck by heart. We're going to have a ton of lands on our side of the battlefield. Wrecking Ball Arm is a new equipment from Final Fantasy that I love. It says equipped creature has base power 7/7 and can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. 7 is notable here because whenever you double 7 twice, you not only end up with 14, but you're also then going to end up with 28, which is going to be more than enough to one-shot a player even if they have a decent blocker. We're also on a couple instances that help us out. We have Primal Bellow, Become Immense, and Invigorate. Invigorate is also pretty cool here because you can cast it for free. It says if you control a forest, rather than pay this spell's mana cost, you may have an opponent gain 3 life. And then it says target creature gets +4/+4 until end of turn. That's immediately going to make Tifa 5 power. Then we drop a land and she has 10 power. Again, it's not hard to start one-shotting people with this deck incredibly quickly. Become Immense is 6 CMC. It has Delve, so we can reduce that by exiling cards from our graveyard. This is a mono green deck, so we don't have a lot of ways to get our instant sorceries back. And then it says target creature gets +6/+6 until end of turn. Again, that gets Tifa to 7 power. 7's that solid number where it becomes 14 and then 28, and then it's really hard not to just die. Primal Bellow is 1 CMC and says target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each forest you control. Notably, we're going to be controlling a lot of forests in a mono green deck. There's a few other notable cards I wanted to talk about, like Genji's Glove. This gives mono green an extra combat. That's not okay. It's 5 CMC. It says equipped creature has double strike. Again, giving Tifa double strike. Not okay. And it says whenever equipped creature attacks, if it's the first combat phase this turn, untap it. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. This will allow you to easily kill 2 players. Gorgos Vicious Watcher, also amazing here. It's a 6 CMC Hydra that says Hydra spells cost 4 less to cast. We do not care about that. It also says whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell or ability, Gorgos Vicious Watcher fights up to 1 target creature you don't control, and then it's an 8/7. So this is just going to keep everything off the board and make sure Tifa can get through without being blocked. Season of Growth is also amazing in this deck. It allows us to draw a card whenever our creatures become a target of a spell. We are on a lot of pump spells, so this is going to trigger a ton and make sure we always have something in our hand.